in the next couple weeks, but especially that week that we'll be down there. We go not as just a collection of individuals, but as a representative of this church.
Having small children, I've never felt like I could leave at the time that these trips were going on until this year, and it was opened up to the youth. And I have two boys, 14 and 17, who were free this summer. I have another daughter in college, but she was in summer school, so she couldn't attend. But I said to my husband, I'm gonna go with the boys to Mexico this summer, do you wanna go? And I knew full well he would not wanna miss out on being with the boys in that experience. And so we went as almost a whole family. Had no idea what we were getting into. We were mostly worried about packing and our passports and what we were gonna be able to eat when we got there. But we came back and our hearts were changed. We never worried about what we were wearing. We never were hungry or complained about the food.
It was really new for me because I'd never been out of the country, I'd never been on a plane, I'd barely been off the East Coast. I felt really safe. It was a good atmosphere in Mexico.
The first thoughts that went through my mind when I got there is how compact everything is. The houses are so close together, and then they're right next to all the shops and the sewer system, and it really hit me like we were so blessed with everything spread out, and we don't have to, we really don't have to worry about our sewer system overflowing.
Some of my favorite parts of it were the relationships that we built with the people there and seeing how much this meant to them, really. So I would definitely recommend going on this trip because it was a great experience.
At first, when I found out I was going on the trip, I was kind of scared. I didn't know what to expect. But during the trip, just making connections with the people down there, it just felt normal and it was real fun.
I'm Diane Regensberger. I am a deacon at First Presbyterian Church here in Fayetteville. I have gone on the Reynosa Faith Ministry trip. I believe this was my 12th time. The first time I went was when we were first here, and my husband was in the Army, and I just really felt the call that every time someone told me about it or was talking about Mexico, I was like, I gotta do that. There was something inside me that was really like, you have to go. But I had a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I'm like, I can't go. But we figured it out, and my husband got leave, and I went, and it changed my life. I have friends there that I've seen every year I go back, and they just, it's like going home. It's hard sometimes because I saw one of my friends this year that Ezekiel, and his health is declining, and I don't know if he'll be there next year when I go back. And it's heartbreaking that I want to go there more, but I know it's for me, and I need to go what's best for God. So I really think that getting out of your comfort zone, going to another country where you see people that have nothing, they're living with dirt floors and cardboard as their roof, and when it rains they get wet, and the rats come in and bite them. And when we're giving them this what we think is a horrible house, which is 12 by 24 concrete, they're so blessed because they're like, I'm not gonna get wet anymore, I'm gonna stay dry, the rats can't come in, I'm gonna be safe. Angel, who we built the house for this year, he's been a really good friend. He's one of the foremen, and I work with him every year. We built a house for him. And when we were going to put a plaque, we always put a plaque on the outside of the house of the number of the house so they can keep track and who built it, what church, all the names who worked on it. We said, Angel, where do you want to put your plaque? And he said, well, I want it inside the house. I want it above my bed. This is where my bed's going to be. I want to see it every day. And that just was really powerful that, you know, we are making a difference. Whether we only go for a week or we've only gone one time, we are making a difference in their lives. And just to see God through them, they're so grateful and so thankful. It kind of blows your mind.
We had our devotions every morning and every night as a group, and in the evenings we did the adults and children together, and the youth made some of our strongest testimonies.
We were there to build houses, but the connections with the people were just as important. And these 3 little girls at the construction site that I played with were probably the truest representations of God that I have ever seen. They had such a little themselves, but were still willing to share it back with me and the rest of the team. And that's something I really don't think I can ever forget.
One thing was Judy, Gracia, and Eileen, and they would try to help us communicate as best as we could by pointing out what things were. And even though we couldn't speak the same language and we couldn't talk to them pretty much at all, somehow we were still able to have like endless fun and be best friends. It was really great.
And every day I remember going to lunch at the church where we would meet up, and Judy would always bring me back something every day. Like, she brought me a flower one day. It was like an artificial flower, so I still have it. And then she brought me like a little stuffed animal elephant. And I don't know, they're just so giving to have as little as they have, and so content. And it was so hard for me to leave them. I never could have imagined that it'd be that hard to leave.
I have been a chaperone with some of our youth who were with us in Mexico. They're a group that have grown up together. They've been patient with each other, they've loved each other, they picked on each other, they worship together.
Say hi to the camera.
I saw them, as well as my boys, dig deeper in their physical strength than they ever have. I've seen them endure more, the ability to communicate through Christ with language barriers and make very strong friendships and relationships that made them cry when they had to say goodbye. They were already close, and now their bonds to each other, to Christ, and to our church, and the legacy of ministry in our church is very, very solid. And that's been a tremendous gift from it, to be a witness to that. And then the end result is that none of us realized what we had gained by taking our smiles there, but instead of what we brought home. Just a love and friendship from people whom we had nothing to gain, that we might not ever see again, that we went there to build them houses, but they're fine. They really didn't need us. They have the physical ability, the spirit, and the love to survive anything.
I think before we went, people had this idea that we were going to be, mixing concrete and laying cement blocks, and that was sort of the purpose of the trip. And of course we did a lot of that. But it didn't take very long throughout the week for them to realize that the purpose of the trip was the people.
For me, the most personal experience for me, I guess, was with the fellow for whom we were building one of the houses, named Jose. On the second day we were pouring a roof. Again, I was on the wheelbarrow when my sole of my boot separated, like that. And I'm walking along on the roof, pushing a 70-pound, 80-pound load in a wheelbarrow, trying not to trip on the mesh that's up there. They called it my zapatos con una boca, my shoes with a mouth. So we tried taping it with medical tape. No duct tape in Mexico that I could find. We tried taping it out of the first aid kit. That lasted about 20 minutes. At the end of the day, I took the shoes off and left them in Jose's yard. The next day, when I got to his house, he had over his shoulder, tied together by string, a size 10.5 steel-toed Brogan boot that I ended up wearing for the rest of the week. Where a man who lives in a 300, 400 square foot cinder block house with 7 other people stores a pair of 11 Brogan steel-toed boots. I don't know those things, but I know that there they were. Those were my shoes that were at his house. And I wore them the rest of the week.
I had actually been at this, working at this ministry before when I was in college. In fact, when I got to the airport, Omar, the director down in Reynosa, just came up and gave me a big hug. And it's just such a great reminder that our church family is not just here in this building, but it's different people that look different from us and speak different languages and live all across the world, but are still our brothers and sisters and should be just as important to us and just as close to our heart as the people who live next door.
We were building for a house for a young man named Jonathan, and he was volunteering at night because they have guards at night just to keep us safe in the compound. And nothing's ever happened. But Jonathan, we were having, we had devotion every night, and we'd be outside on the balcony, and he'd go, "What are you singing about? I hear you singing and you're laughing and you sound like you're having a good time." We're like, "Well, we're praising God for being here." He goes, "But why do you come? It's horrible here." And we're like, "But God told us to come, you know?" And so the last night we were doing communion, and we invited the 3 gentlemen downstairs along with Jonathan to come up. And he poured his heart out to us and said, "I still don't understand." And I said, "It's because of that. It's because of that bread. It's because of that wine. It's because of the body of Christ. God told us to go. We are his hands and his feet."
I would suggest going, and I wouldn't really just suggest it. I'd want you to go. I'd command you to go, because it's God's commandment for us to go to the world and spread the word of Christ. And that's what we're doing through our faith, and through faith ministries, and not just faith ministries, but really any mission team, or it doesn't even have to be through a mission team, just yourself. You can go to schools or work or wherever you're going to be and spread the word of Christ.
You can't really feel God unless you do his work, and going out there, and it's going to be like uncomfortable and hot and sticky, and sometimes it's not going to be fun, but it's going to be worth it in the end. The connections that you make, and looking at that cinder block house saying, "I did this. A family is going to live here. This is God working through me."
I think that you can attend a church, you can come on Sunday, you can do a few other things during the year, but that is what worship is the mission work is when it really comes to life. Nobody sees you doing it. There's no pat on the back for it. But it was our summer vacation, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
All right, here we go.
Basketball shot ever. Throw it really high. Wow. All right, there it goes. There's no way. Okay. Oh wow. Oh my. Okay.